What if I told you that right now, as you watch this video, you're inside an experiment? Not in a laboratory, not behind glass, but in your own home, in your own hands. An experiment so vast, so subtle, and so powerful that billions of people are taking part in it without ever signing up. It's not about rats in cages or scientists in white coats. It's about you, your thoughts, your emotions, your attention. And the laboratory, it's the screen you're looking at right now. Every scroll, every like, every pause tells a story, a data point that feeds a system designed to know you better than you know yourself. These systems don't just predict your behavior, they shape it. They study what keeps you watching, what makes you angry, what makes you sad, and then they feed you more of it, again and again. This is the world we live in, a world where our attention is the most valuable currency, and where technology companies have become the new puppet masters of emotion and belief. What began as tools for connection have quietly evolved into machines of persuasion, running one of the largest psychological experiments in human history. This isn't science fiction. This is happening. Every minute, every scroll, every click. And the most shocking part? You volunteered for it. Part 1. The birth of the digital experiment. It didn't start with an evil plan. It started with curiosity, the kind that drives invention. In the early 2000s, a group of young engineers and dreamers gathered in dorm rooms and garages, fueled by caffeine and idealism. Their goal wasn't control, it was connection. They wanted to build digital spaces where people could share photos, memories, and ideas. They wanted to make the world smaller, and for a while, it seemed they succeeded. When Facebook appeared, it felt like magic. Suddenly, you could find your childhood friends, message people across oceans, and post your life for the world to see. Twitter made everyone a broadcaster. YouTube gave every person a global stage. Instagram made daily life look beautiful. It was a revolution built on likes, shares, and followers. But behind this wave of optimism, something else was quietly forming, a system that learned how humans behave. Every scroll, every click, every pause of your finger was recorded. Not by a person watching, but by invisible lines of code designed to understand you. These systems didn't sleep. They didn't judge. They simply learned. They discovered that humans are creatures of emotion, that anger spreads faster than joy, fear grabs attention longer than calm, and outrage makes you stay. By 2010, the experiment had already begun, even if no one called it that yet. Algorithms, the digital brains that decide what you see, became more powerful than any editor or TV producer. They didn't just show you what you liked, they decided what you would like next. And with each post you reacted to, you unknowingly trained them to predict your thoughts, your desires, even your beliefs. The digital world turned into a massive psychological mirror, one that reflected back the deepest parts of human nature. Companies began to realize that attention, not content, was the real currency. The longer you stayed online, the more ads they could show you. The more data they could collect, the more powerful their predictions became. What had started as a mission to connect humanity had quietly transformed into something much bigger and much darker. Social media wasn't just showing you the world, it was shaping how you saw it. You might think this sounds like a conspiracy, but it's not. It's science. Behavioral psychology had already proven for decades that humans could be influenced by rewards and feedback loops. Slot machines use this knowledge to keep gamblers hooked. Random rewards, unpredictable outcomes, and bright flashes of light to trigger the brain's dopamine system. Social media platforms took this exact principle and placed it in your pocket. Every like, comment, or notification became a digital slot machine spin. Each time your phone lights up, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, a chemical associated with pleasure and reward. It feels good, and that feeling keeps you coming back. Soon, you're not checking your phone because you want to, but because your brain tells you it needs to. The machine doesn't force you, it teaches you. And the most astonishing part? You volunteered. No one made you sign up. You offered your photos, your opinions, your location, and your habits, in exchange for convenience and connection. The experiment didn't need to hide in a lab. It was built in plain sight, powered by billions of people willingly feeding it data every single day. What no one fully realized at first was that social media didn't just observe human behavior, it modified it. Algorithms rewarded outrage, sensationalism, and emotional extremes because those kept users engaged longer. Over time, people adapted their behavior to gain more attention, crafting identities designed to please the algorithm. The experiment had evolved. Humans weren't just the subjects anymore. They had become the collaborators. By the mid-2010s, social networks had mapped human psychology with terrifying accuracy. They could predict what kind of post would make you angry, what would make you laugh, and what would make you believe. They could push trends, manipulate markets, and even influence elections, all while convincing users they were simply scrolling. Think about it. Billions of people connected to a single system, each interaction measured, analyzed, and optimized to keep them there. Never before in history had so much psychological data existed, not even close. What we once thought of as entertainment had become a living laboratory, one that learns and evolves faster than any human researcher ever could. The world had entered the era of the digital experiment. Except this time, the test subjects weren't aware they were part of it. Part 2. The invisible experiment. What if the most powerful psychological experiment in history isn't happening in a lab, but right now, in your hands? No scientists in white coats, no volunteers behind glass walls. Just billions of people scrolling, tapping, reacting, all unknowingly part of a vast global test, one without consent, oversight, or an end. Social media began as a way to connect people, a simple idea, bring the world closer together. But somewhere along the way, it became something else, a mirror that doesn't just reflect who we are, but reshapes us. And the people behind it, the engineers, designers, and behavioral scientists, discovered something extraordinary. Attention could be measured, predicted, and controlled. It started with algorithms, programs designed to show you what you like. But in truth, they learn to show you what keeps you hooked. Every click, pause, and swipe became data. Every emotional reaction, anger, curiosity, envy, excitement, was recorded, analyzed, and fed back into the system. The result? A machine that knows you better than you know yourself. The logic is simple, but devastatingly effective. The longer you stay, the more ads you see. The more you engage, the more profit is made. But to achieve this, the algorithm must keep you engaged at all costs. And so, it begins to play with your psychology, testing what triggers you, what calms you, what keeps you from looking away. In the early days, the tests were small. Which post layout makes people click more? Which color of notification gets more attention? Red one, of course, it signals urgency, danger, importance. But over time, these tests evolved into something far deeper. Entire populations became samples. A small change in code could shift collective behavior. Subtly, invisibly, yet powerfully. This is how emotional contagion works online. When researchers at Facebook quietly altered the emotional tone of users' news feeds in 2012, they discovered something chilling. If people saw more negative posts, they posted more negative content themselves. If they saw more positive ones, they became more positive. Emotions spread digitally, like a virus, and no one even knew they were part of the study. Now imagine that multiplied by every app you use. Instagram tests your self-esteem by feeding you impossible standards of beauty. Twitter tests your anger thresholds through outrage cycles. TikTok experiments with your attention span, training your brain to crave stimulation every few seconds. You are the subject, the experiment, and the outcome all at once. And the most frightening part, the experiment never ends. Unlike traditional studies, there's no control group, no ethics review, no debrief at the end. The platform learns, evolves, and rewires itself continuously, using you to test what keeps humans clicking, scrolling, and feeling. This is not conspiracy, it's design. Social media companies hire behavioral scientists to study dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. They know exactly how your mind reacts when you receive a like, a share, or a comment. Each notification gives a small hit of pleasure, a digital pat on the back. Over time, your brain associates these moments with validation, belonging, and self-worth. The app becomes your lab, and you become its loyal test subject. Think about it. Every time you open your phone, you're not deciding what to see. An invisible system already made that choice for you. It knows when you're lonely, when you're bored, when you're angry. It can sense when you're likely to engage, and it feeds you the exact type of content that will make you stay a little longer. It predicts your next move with frightening accuracy. It's a system that doesn't need to tell you what to believe. It just needs to show you enough of one side until you start to believe it yourself. Divide people long enough, and they'll fight without ever realizing they're being guided toward conflict. Feed them dopamine long enough, and they'll mistake addiction for entertainment. Keep them scrolling long enough, and they'll forget what they were looking for in the first place. We often think we're the users of these platforms, but in truth, we're the product. Our time, our emotions, and our attention are what's being sold. Every post you see, every ad you scroll past, every trend that catches your eye has been filtered, tested, and optimized for one thing: control. And the most unsettling realization is this: the experiment doesn't require your permission because it's already happening. There's no exit button, no final report, no moment when the scientists say, "Thank you for participating." Because the test never ends. It just adapts, evolves, and continues every time you look at your screen. Part 3. The psychological consequences. Every time you scroll, your brain changes. Not figuratively, literally. Neurons fire, dopamine surges, and the mind adapts to a new rhythm. The human brain, built for focus and survival, is now flooded with endless novelty and stimulation. What began as entertainment has become quiet reprogramming. At first, it feels harmless. A few posts, a few laughs. But beneath the surface, something deeper forms. Your brain learns to crave this digital pulse. Psychologists call it variable reward conditioning, the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. Each refresh promises a potential reward, a like, a message, a viral post. Most times, nothing happens, but occasionally, the screen gives you that hit of pleasure, and your brain learns to chase it again. This loop of anticipation and reward reshapes motivation. Validation becomes measurable: likes, followers, engagement. The numbers start to define self-worth. When they rise, you feel seen. When they fall, you question yourself. Over time, the constant cycle of reward and disappointment exhausts the emotional system. Studies show frequent social media users report higher rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness, the very feelings these apps pretend to relieve. Then comes the collapse of attention. The human mind isn't designed for endless bursts of micro-content. Constant stimulation trains it to expect speed, noise, and surprise. Focus weakens. Reading a book feels impossible. Silence feels uncomfortable. Your brain begins rejecting slow, real-world experiences because they can't compete with the digital flood. This isn't laziness, it's adaptation. You've rewired your reward system, and slowly, emotion distorts. Every scroll invites comparison. Someone happier, richer, more attractive. Even knowing it's fake doesn't protect you. The subconscious measures anyway. Psychologists call this social comparison theory the silent thief of happiness. It tricks the mind into believing you're falling behind in a race that doesn't exist. Anger also becomes a form of engagement. Algorithms discovered long ago that outrage keeps people online longer. So your feed learns what provokes you: politics, conflict, controversy, and serves more of it. Your emotions are data, and the system profits from your reactions. The result? A constant low-level tension, a belief that the world is angrier and more divided than it truly is. As this happens, identity begins to narrow. Engage with a topic often enough, and the algorithm assumes that's who you are. It feeds you more of the same, reinforcing beliefs, amplifying biases. Psychologists call this the echo chamber effect. It doesn't control your thoughts directly. It filters your reality until you can't tell where your opinions end, and the algorithm's design begins. Meanwhile, the brain's reward system adjusts. Real life, a walk, a meal, a quiet conversation, feels dull compared to the bright, endless feed. Real joy becomes muted because it's slower, less intense. And when the screen goes dark, a subtle withdrawal sets in. Restlessness, unease, the need to check again. That's not boredom. That's your nervous system craving stimulation. But at its core, this isn't just addiction to technology, it's addiction to connection. Social media hijacks one of humanity's oldest instincts, the need to belong. It offers friendship, validation, even love, but replaces authenticity with illusion. The connections fade quickly, leaving emptiness behind. We are teaching our minds to mistake simulation for satisfaction, a digital reflection for a human experience. When people say, "It's just entertainment," they overlook the truth. Social media doesn't just change what we watch, it changes who we are. It shapes our desires, fears, and perceptions. It doesn't merely capture attention, it colonizes it. The longer we stay inside this invisible experiment, the more difficult it becomes to remember what undistracted life once felt like. Part 4. Society in the Age of the Algorithm. What began as a personal habit has become a global condition. Billions of people, different languages, cultures, beliefs, now live inside the same invisible system. A single algorithm doesn't just shape what individuals see, it shapes what entire societies believe. The age of the algorithm is not defined by technology, but by psychology, by how human behavior can be predicted, influenced, and redirected at scale. The experiment no longer takes place in laboratories. It takes place in every home, on every screen, every second of the day. At first, social media promised connection, a new era of communication and understanding. But as it evolved, the platforms discovered something darker. Outrage spreads faster than truth, fear outperforms facts, and conflict keeps people engaged longer than harmony ever could. In the digital economy, emotion is currency, and the strongest emotions win. The result is a world that feels perpetually on edge. News is no longer about information, it's about reaction. Stories are optimized not for accuracy, but for engagement. Outrage becomes a product, and we are the ones consuming it and feeding it. The more we argue, the more we post, the more the system learns. It doesn't care who's right. It only cares that you stay. And so the lines between truth and fiction begin to blur. Misinformation spreads faster than correction because it's more exciting, more emotional, more shareable. The algorithm doesn't understand morality, only metrics. A lie that generates clicks travels farther than a truth that doesn't. In this environment, reality itself becomes negotiable. Societies start to fracture. Echo chambers harden into ideological tribes. People who live in the same country, even the same city, begin to experience completely different versions of reality, all depending on what their feed decides they should see. We stop speaking with each other and start shouting at reflections of ourselves. The consequences are visible everywhere. Political polarization, culture wars, distrust in institutions, and the erosion of shared truth. Democracy depends on a common understanding of facts, but algorithms reward division because it drives engagement. In this new system, truth has no advantage, only virality does. And yet this isn't a story about villains. The platforms didn't set out to destroy connection or truth. They simply optimized for attention, and attention, as it turns out, thrives on conflict. What began as innovation became addiction. What began as connection became control. The scariest part is that no one person is fully in charge anymore. The system has grown beyond its creators. Machine learning now designs the feeds, selects the stories, and refines the emotional triggers, all in real time. Humanity built an engine that learns faster than we can regulate it. We are all participants in an experiment that no one consented to and no one fully understands. And while this might sound dystopian, it's already shaping how history unfolds. Movements rise and fall on hashtags. Elections swing on algorithms. Economies shift based on viral trends. The collective attention of billions is the most valuable resource on Earth, and it's being mined every second. But amidst the chaos, something else is happening. A quiet awareness is growing. People are beginning to question the feeds that define their worldview. Some are choosing to disconnect, to reclaim their time, their focus, their peace. Because the truth is, the algorithm is only as powerful as our participation. It needs our clicks, our outrage, our energy. Without them, it fades. The age of the algorithm may have changed the way we see the world, but it hasn't taken away our ability to choose how we see it. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. The experiment continues, but now more people are waking up inside it. Outro: waking up from the experiment. The experiment isn't hidden in secret labs or government facilities. It's right here, in our hands, our pockets, our minds. Every scroll, every like, every swipe is a data point in a system that studies what makes us tick and what keeps us scrolling. But awareness is power. The moment you realize how the system works, you start to take back control. You begin to notice the patterns, the way your emotions are guided, the way your time quietly disappears, the way your thoughts are shaped by what you see. That awareness is the glitch in the machine. It's the first step to freedom. Because social media isn't the enemy, forgetting who we are is. We built these tools. We can choose how to use them. We can choose when to look away, when to pause, when to reconnect with the world that exists beyond the screen. So next time you feel that urge to scroll just one more time, stop, breathe. Remember, the algorithm learns from what you give it. The more attention you feed it, the more it feeds on you. If you found this story eye-opening, hit subscribe and join the English chapter, where stories reveal truths and learning becomes understanding. Because language isn't just about words, it's about seeing the world more clearly. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay curious, stay awake, and don't forget to dream offline.